one massive dance floor. Are you ready? So everybody get loose. Come on, get free. Get a little bounce in your step now. Who's ever next to you, help them out. Come on, you gotta feel it all over this place. The very top of this place. You feeling it? Everybody on the top. All you in the middle section, how you feeling? Come on. Everybody down here in the praise pits, how you feeling down low? Come on. Come on, I feel alive. I come alive. I am alive. With God's grace, say, I feel alive. I come. Are you ready to dance? Are you ready to dance? I feel alive. Feel it, boys. You'll never stop loving us, no matter how far we run. You'll never give up on us. All of heaven's shouts, let the future begin. You'll never stop loving us, no matter how far we run. You'll never give up on us. All of heaven's shouts, let the future begin. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive on God's great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive on God's great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive on God's great dance floor.
When the sun had left and the winter came and the sky fall to only bring the rain, I sat in darkness, all broken hearted. I couldn't find a day I didn't feel alone. I never meant to cry, started losing hope, but somehow, baby, you broke through and saved me. You're an angel, tell me you're never leaving, 'cause you're the first thing I know I can believe in. You're holy, 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 holy. I'm high on loving you, high on loving you. You're holy, 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 holy. I'm high on loving you, high on loving you. You made the brightest days from the darkest nights. You're the riverbank where I was baptized, cleansed from the demons that were killing my freedom. Let me lay you down, give me to ya, get you singing, babe. Hallelujah. We'll be touching heaven. You're an angel, tell me you're never leaving, 'cause you're the first thing I know I can't believe in. You're holy, holy. to hurt. You're my saving grace. You're my kind of church. You're holy.
This world is not what it was meant to be. All this pain, all this suffering. There's a better place waiting for me in heaven. Every tear will be wiped away. Every sorrow and sin erased. We'll dance on seas of amazing grace in heaven. In heaven, I'm going home where the streets are golden. Every chain is broken. Oh, I wanna go. Oh, I wanna go home where every fear is gone. I'm in your open arms where I belong. Lay down my burdens, I lay down my past. I run to Jesus, no turning back. Thank God Almighty, I'll be free at last. In heaven, in heaven, I'm going home where the streets are golden. Every chain is broken. Oh, I wanna go. Oh, I wanna go home where every fear is gone. I'm in your open arms where I belong. Blinded eyes will finally see. The dead will rise on the shores of eternity. The drum will sound, the angels will sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I am going home where the streets are golden. Every chain is broken. Oh, I wanna go. Oh, I wanna go home where every fear is gone. I'm in your open arms where I belong. Where I belong. I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm on my way home. I'm going home.
I wanna leave my footprints on the sands of time. Know there was something that meant something that I left behind. When I leave this world, I'll leave no regrets. Leave something to remember so they won't forget I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I wanna leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I lived, I was here. I did, I was here. I lived, I loved, I did, I've done, I was here.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
When the shadows of this life have grown, I'll fly away. Like a bird from prison bars that's flown, I'll fly away.
I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
She held him close, then she kissed his face. He said it just has to be this way.
Okay, here it comes. You gotta shout it, remember? Loud and proud.
She doesn't come just for the few things.
Ready? Turn towards Papa. I feel alive. I come alive. I am alive on God's great dance floor. I feel alive. I come alive. I am alive on God's great dance floor. I feel alive. I come alive. Look at Papa. You sing again. Ready? I feel alive. I come alive. I am alive. Oh, God makes it for. Good job, Riley. Woo!
I feel alive on God's great dance floor. Good afternoon, Bree Leavers. So, there you go. Trust you received a program when you came in this afternoon. If you didn't, there are some in the lobby. And real important, in the inside, you're going to find a comment sheet. So if you'd like to share a word of encouragement or a story perhaps that the family would enjoy, you can do that. You can leave it lying on your seat, and the host team will pick it up a little bit later. Or you can take it over to the fellowship hall, and we'll have instructions for that in just a few moments. We gather today to celebrate a hero. I believe that. A hero in life and a hero in faith. At nearly 30 years of life, we celebrate Bree today and the impact she has had on so many, represented by you here today. And I know many, many who could not be with us, some who are joining us online. Cystic fibrosis, CF, didn't win this battle. Bree won. And she did so with an amazing passion for life, purpose, and faith. I want to share with you some quotes from the Kitsap Sun. I think they wrote a fabulous article. CF didn't stop her from graduating in 2005 from North Kitsap High School, studying animal science and zoology at Washington State University later on. CF didn't keep her from caring for a menagerie of pets at her Port Orchard home. All included a miniature cow, a bull, a horse, a huge tortoise, a hedgehog, and then dogs, plural, and cats, plural. CF doesn't define who I am, quote, unquote, her father, Jim, recalled her saying, Bree saying. And when doctors at UW Medical Center could do nothing more to stop the infection in her lungs, and she went home to die, it was her love of Jesus, not CF, that defined her. A hero has been described this way. A hero is someone who we determine to have demonstrated behaviors and decisions that are ethically and emotionally worthy of our awe. We see in them something we think is not in us. Given similar conditions, we think we might not make the same moves and decisions as they do. And so we place them in an elevated place in society or in our minds. What is a hero? Someone who inspires us by their example, and someone who moves us emotionally. A hero celebrates others, something that marked Bree's life. And a hero wouldn't like anything that I'm saying right now, or the things that you're going to hear in just a few moments, because it's never about them. It's always others who matter. And I think that one thing marked Brianna's life. Just a few moments you're going to hear from a number of friends, doctors, and family. But the family wanted me to express their thanks to Bree's incredible medical team, and so I just want to share their words. It's just entitled, Doctor Thanks. Now, all these memories would have never been possible without the constant drive and battle from all of her amazing nurses and doctors that help so many patients like Brianna's flourish and prolong life to the fullest. Much of your work, to the doctor team, is done behind closed doors and sometimes goes unnoticed, but not by our family. Without your continued dedication to Brianna, and even Mr. Pottinger being our lifeline, being only a phone call away, our gratitude for what you do for humanity is beyond belief. To think you do this for an ever-evolving list of patients that in the end finish their journey a lot sooner than most. But for you to continue forward and keep doing what you do is amazing, and we want to thank you for that. Because truly, if it wasn't for you, Dr. Ramsey, Dr. Gibson, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Rosenfeld from Children's Hospital, Dr. Aiken, Dr. Dandekar, and you, Dr. Pottinger at UW Medical Center, and all of their support staff, Brianna wouldn't have been able to share her 29 years of life with all of us and be able to keep such a daunting bacteria at bay. For that, we are always grateful and thankful for your strength as a human to always keep on going. And like for us to express our thanks to the medical team. Can we do that? I want to share just a portion of scripture and then we'll open in prayer. Paul from 1 Thessalonians talks about the hope of the resurrection. It's the hope of every follower of Jesus, every believer. And he writes this, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, we want you to know what will happen to the believers who have died, so you will not grieve like people who have no hope." If you're a follower of Jesus, you know what all of that means. We grieve. The Bible never says don't grieve. We do grieve, but we grieve differently because we have hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and was raised to life again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. We tell you this directly from the Lord. We who are still living when the Lord returns will not meet him ahead of those who have died, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout and with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet call of God. First, the believers who have died will rise from their graves. Then together with them, we who are still alive and remain on earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. So encourage each other with these words. And that's what we're going to do today. I know that there will be a lot of grieving today, a lot of tears and laughter. And as we bring grief and we bring hope together, we do so giving the Lord thanks for Bree and for the impact that she has had on our lives and many, many more. Will you join me in prayer? Father, today we thank you for the opportunity that we have just to pause and give you thanks for Bree and for her life and how she impacted so many. It's represented by the many friends who have gathered here today. And thank you that she is with you and that as fellow believers, we join in grief today, but we also join in the hope that Bree lived with. We thank you because we know that she is with you and she is in that place that we read about and we talk about. And we give you thanks for that reality. I pray that you'll bless our time together as we just pause and give thanks and share stories and share memories today. In your name we pray. And everyone said, amen. I'd like to invite Dr. Bonnie Ramsey to join us today.
Hi. So Janine Cassidy and I are delighted to be representing the cystic fibrosis program at Seattle Children's and many of the doctors' names that were just mentioned. And we first got to know Brianna in 1991. I had the privilege of being her very first CF doctor. Although I've devoted my whole 35-year career to CF care, I only actually diagnosed one patient with cystic fibrosis, and that was Brianna Oas. So when I first saw this 3-year-old little girl, I knew she was very special. Now today, fortunately, all children with CF in the state of Washington and in the US are diagnosed right when they're born, and so they don't have to have symptoms before we treat them. But that wasn't true when Brianna was born. And so by the time I met the family, she was quite sick and was underweight. And Val and Jim had really been through a lot in the first 3 years. But I could see from that first day that Bree had spirit. And once we started the medicines, the enzymes and the chest PT and the antibiotics, she just blossomed and thrived like a flower in the spring. And I remember about the same time was when I was approached, I'm not quite sure why, but I was approached by Time magazine for an article on CF. And so I asked the Oases if we could feature Brianna and their family. And so you see in your booklet, they took a picture of Val and Bree and I and shared that with the rest of the world. And so that sort of cemented our relationship forever. Bree never let her CF stop her, as has already been said. You know, she certainly had setbacks with her hospitalizations, but she always loved her school, her family, her friends. And what was clear to me in my many years as a CF doctor is that CF is an illness for the whole family. It's not just the patient. And those children who are surrounded by a family that love and support them, it really changes their lives. And Val and Jim and Justin and Kirsten decided that they were all going to fight CF together. You know, they threw themselves into starting the Poulsbo CF Great Strides Walk and other CFF activities. And Brianna knew that although CF made her daily life somewhat hard, could never match her family's love. And I also loved talking to Brianna because every time she would come into clinic, she had a plan. There was something that she was doing, and she was, you know, going to spend her life taking care of animals, as you know, because she loved horses, and then she became the representative for FFA, and then she always wanted to care for animals. And the other thing about Brianna, as we know from these pictures, she was beautiful. And she was not only physically beautiful, but she radiated joy and energy and spirit. It's like she glowed. Although I never got to know Nick, because that was after she'd already left Children's, I'm so happy that Bree found a soulmate and the love of her life. So I just want to say that the CF team cherished our time with Brianna and the Oas family, and we all miss her. We had to say our first goodbye to her when she graduated from Children's and went both to the UW, but also to WSU, and she wanted to make that very clear. Sadly, now we're saying our second goodbye. So Bree, you made all of our lives a little better just for knowing you. And thank you. So those are my thoughts. And then Margaret Rosenfeld couldn't be here today, so she sent me her thoughts, and I'm going to read them as well. Hi, I'm Margaret Rosenfeld, one of Bree's doctors at Seattle Children's, and I'm sorry I can't be here in person. I feel so fortunate to be one of the lucky people in the world who got to know Bree and will be forever touched by her. She taught me so much about the power of love, faith, perseverance, and optimism. I remember Bree taking a year after high school to serve as an ambassador for FFA, touring the country, raising awareness for the club. She stayed with families in many different states, somehow managed to sneak in all of her CF treatments in strange homes late at night, early in the morning, and taking it all in stride. For the past 5 to 6 years, she helped me teach at the University of Washington medical students about living with CF. Each spring, she would join me, or I should say I joined her, to describe her life with CF and answer questions for the students. She was so committed that she came all the way from WSU when she was a student there. As Valerie and Nick and Jim always sat in the back row, only blowing their cover once the students had a chance to ask their questions. Her visit was always one of the highlights of my spring. Bree just blew those medical students away. She invited them to ask any question, no matter how difficult, and she answered honestly and openly. They asked her about how having CF affected her and Nick's decision to marry, how they grappled with whether to start a family, and how having a life-shortening condition affected her career decisions. She was so eloquent, comfortable, and thoughtful and mature, and had such ease and sense of humor. By the end, they always trying to convince her to go to medical school, not knowing that vet school is much more competitive than medical school. There was, of course, also a friendly UW-WSU rivalry, which made everyone laugh. Each year, Bree got older while the students stayed the same age. She started out being a college student, then went on through marriage, graduation, career, and was getting sicker. Each year, her views were more mature and nuanced, but she always took her illness in stride, as tough as it was. Even when she was on continuous IV antibiotics for a better part of the year, she focused on the incredible love and positive energy in her life, and on fighting to make this world a better place. I think there was never a dry eye at the end of her presentation. I remember one of the medical students asking Bree whether she wished she could not have had CF. She thought for a while and she said, honestly, no, having CF is part of what makes me who I am. It's taught me the power of the love of my family and gives me a perspective about living each day to its fullest. And that's exactly what she did, and that perspective has rubbed off on all of those who knew her, and we will forever be better people. Bree, this world is a far better place because you were here, and you'll be missed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramsey. We would like to welcome Mr. John Waller to the stage. Mr. Waller was Brianna's high school agricultural teacher, as well as her Future Farmers of America, or FFA, advisor, where Brianna got her huge start in public speaking and where her leadership flourished.
Hope I brought enough Kleenex. Wow, there's a lot of you out there. Would you guys do me a favor? Take a moment and just look around. Look at each other, take a look. Many of you are sitting by someone you know, family, friends, while others you may be sitting by a stranger. In either case, take a moment to shake hands, introduce yourself, or give a hug, because we've all been blessed to have at least one thing in common. We were all touched in some way, big or small, by Brianna. Please do it. Meet and introduce the next person. This is interactive a little bit, people. Okay, back to the reality here. When I was asked by Nick if I would speak today, there was no hesitation. I answered yes, immediately, I'd be honored. Then I thought more about it and think more deeper about what I would say, what I'd do, how I'd be up here. And it was at that time that I felt a warm trickle running down the inside of my leg. Now you get it. My first thought was yuck, and then why? Was it because I'd be up here in front of you all talking about the most incredible, courageous, caring, positive, outgoing, faithful, the glass is always half full person I know? No. It's because of all the long van rides across the state to countless competitions, the late nights and early mornings prepping, preparing, and practicing, the early morning officer team and planning meetings, the highs of winning, the lows of failing, the drama. Oh my God, the drama. Whew. The team and individual problem solving, that you got this, pep talks before contest, and you did the best you could, that's all you can do, speeches when things didn't go as well as hoped, and the support and love we all had for each other. It was because of the late nights and early mornings at fairs, weighing, washing, prepping, and showing pigs, the inside scoop on what the judge liked and didn't like, working hard for that blue ribbon, hoping and praying the pigs would score high, earning earning a place early in the sale line while the prices were still good. It was the fact that after all those years of Brianna looking to me for advice, direction, support, and encouragement, it's my turn. I know she's looking down right now saying, "You got this, Waller." So here it goes. Some leaders, some leaders lead by being the loudest. Some lead because they're elected, while others are simply by default. Not Brianna. She was a born leader. Her ability to encourage and bring out the best of others was surpassed by no one. She always saw the positive in people and built on that, and always led by an example. Always the first to task, always the last to leave, and always the first with an encouraging word. The FFA was founded on people just like Brianna. She lived and breathed blue and gold and what it stood for. She started out competing in public speaking, sales, Parley Pro, and numerous other FFA leadership contests, showed pigs, and moved her way through the officer ranks to president of the North Kitsap FFA chapter during her 4 years in high school. But that wasn't enough for Brianna. She then went on to become a state FFA officer, where she traveled all over the country representing Washington FFA, and I can't think of a better person for the job. I still remember very clearly her state officer election speech was about her Romeos. Yes, Brianna got elected to state office after giving a speech about her boots. I think this was also the time Nick was up in the sound booth going, Anyway, the girl could talk, and how could she talk? And people listened. She had the natural ability to catch everyone's attention and keep it. Whether she was talking about floating horses' teeth, her boots, or cystic fibrosis, everyone listened and took note. Her voice will be missed. Brianna Oas Strand, I simply want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us into your life. Thank you for being ever so positive, even in the face of adversity. Thank you for sharing that incredible smile and your never-ending faith. Thank you for being a beautiful, incredible role model for both young and old to aspire to be. Thank you for being a voice of encouragement in everything that is life. And thank you for making each and every one of us even a little bit better for just knowing you. I am honored and blessed to be able to say I was your FFA advisor and teacher. The time we spent together with your teammates, close friends, and FFA family will always be some of the fondest memories I'll ever have. I'll forever be grateful as well that my two sons were touched and graced for knowing you. And oh yes, thank you for getting me called to the principal's office by two different principals. When you're the teacher, that's not the good thing. So real quickly, let me tell you one of these stories. I'd asked Brianna to watch our house when we were gone for a weekend. My wife and I and the boys had taken off. She came over to watch the house. She had asked me if she could have some friends over, so I know some of the culprits are still in this room right now. And I said I didn't have a problem. Knowing Brianna, I knew things were safe, all was good. We got to get back to work on Monday, and by the end of the day, I get called into the principal's office. Apparently, word had spread that, and you know how the telegraph game goes, right? From reality to non-reality, and story gets bigger and bigger. Apparently, Mr. Waller had had a party at his house, and the girls were in the hot tub. So, trying to explain this to my principal, no, I wasn't even in town. I was with my wife and kids. I'd asked Brianna to watch the house, and she had some friends over, and I'm sure it was just a few. The reality of this is, I want you to understand, this was the first-year principal, and when I said Brianna's name, he's like, "Oh, that's fine. I get it. There's no problems there." So just the fact that he knew Brianna and what type of person she was a contest to who Brianna was. So, yes. So that was one. Another one you can even ask Val, because it stemmed from one of our trips to National FFA Convention, had to do with a distillery visit, and had to do with some other things. So I'm going to leave that one. Trust me, I did ask all the parents. You can ask any of the kids I've ever taken there, that all the parents were like, "Yeah, just bring me something." All's good. But I'll leave that one to later and in light of time. To know Brianna was to know that CF didn't define her. We heard this earlier. Her love of God, family, animals, friends, and life defined her. She was large as life and lived every day to the fullest. We can all say we've accomplished many things in our lives, but when we match ours up to Brianna's, they fail by comparison. She was a go-getter. The answer no was simply a minor setback in Brianna's eyes, and you never told her she couldn't do something. That, of course, was unless you wanted to be proven wrong or you really, really needed it done. And she always did it with a smile. When I look back at my 25 years in education, I have so many great memories and reasons for loving my job as I do. Many of you are sitting here with us today. Brianna has and always will be my weigh and measure when I need strength, courage, and perhaps a swift kick in the butt. I challenge all of you to simply think, what would Brianna do when you're facing adversity, sadness, discouragement? Picture that big smile and her saying, "You got this." Brianna, you will be missed. God bless. Love you, kid.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. I think you'd make a good preacher. But I'm glad you're a teacher, and I'm glad you were Bree's teacher. Let's welcome Dottie Vlasic, shall we, to the stage. Dottie has been the executive director for the Washington chapter of Cystic Fibrosis, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Dottie grew a large relationship with the Oas family after the family started the Paulsville CF Walk. Many of you were a part of that this morning, as well as seeing Brianna attending the many CF galas in Seattle. So, Dottie, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really honored to be here. I'm representing the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, the Washington chapter, and I know we're all here to celebrate Brianna's life. Brianna was probably about 5 years old the first time I met her. I went to Paulsbo to visit the Oas family, met the family, and it was very obvious that it was a house full of love, dedication to doing anything they could do to help fund research to improve the medications for Brianna's life. They had a very strong faith that continues, and of course, a lot of animals, as they always do today. Val and Jim, along with the Paulsbo community, embraced Great Strides, and they founded the Great Strides Walk in Paulsbo. And Brianna was the inspiration and the motivation. Each year, they recruited sponsors, volunteers, team leaders to make this event happen. And I'm sure most everyone in this room today is familiar with this walk and has participated in some way, and we truly thank you. Brianna was also an outstanding spokesperson for the foundation, and as Dr. Ramsey mentioned, she was always free to tell her personal story, no matter how intimate it was. She wanted others to really get a sense of what it was like to live with cystic fibrosis, and she also wanted to get them to participate into helping fund CF research. Then, as we all know, she met her sweetie, and she married Nick, and he truly became her life partner in every way, including the Paulsbo Great Strides Walk. And together, they really focused on expanding it into part of the community, recruiting sponsors and all the volunteers again and the fundraisers, and they had a passion to make this event a success. And this morning, we had the 25th Paulsbo Walk. Over 200 participants were there, and it looks like it's going to raise around $40,000. So that's exciting. So as you can already see, Brianna's legacy continues. And I know that for her, a dream was for cystic fibrosis, which we refer to as CF sometimes, for this disease to stand for Cure Found. And I know that with our continued medical research and all that's going on, that we can celebrate her legacy one day and truly find a cure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dottie. Our next speaker is Dr. Paul Pottinger. In 2012, after Brianna graduated WSU, Brianna was directed to see a specialist at the UW Medical Center in the infectious disease clinic, specializing in mycobacterium, as her doctor in Spokane had observed Brianna's status not showing improvement after an infection. Brianna and her family were blessed to be introduced to Dr. Paul Pottinger, who became one of Brianna's biggest advocates in her medical fight as an adult.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this amazing, astonishing celebration of an amazing and astonishing person. Yes, I'm honored to have met and helped to take care of Brianna as part of a multidisciplinary team at UW. Doctors, nurses, social workers, nutritional specialists, counselors, respiratory therapists, many, many people, all of whose lives were touched in such an amazing way by Brianna. To be clear, all of our patients are special. We love all of them. Each has their own story to tell, their own challenges, and their own lessons to give us. That's the joy of being a medical doctor. But Brianna was different. She was spectacular. She was extraordinary, she was inspiring, and she was unique. There was no one else in any of our careers who came close to her. Now, many of you may know this story, but for those who do not, last fall, the Infectious Diseases Society of America, our biggest professional society, sent out a request globally, around the world. Who has the most inspiring patient? Who can put a face on the crisis of antibiotic-resistant bacteria that we're trying to deal with? That's because IDSA wanted to have someone to come to Washington, D.C., to stand in front of the U.S. Congress to brief them on the important and critical nature of this crisis. And of course, I immediately thought of Brianna. I made that introduction, and they were as blown away by her as I had been. They invited her and her family to go to D.C., and she did. She stood on a stage next to the leader of the ID Society of America, the CDC, the NIH, the Department of Defense. And her story, telling that story, I think made a huge difference. You know, her hope was simply to share her tale, and we've heard about this from some of the other people who know her. She was great at talking, and she was great at telling people what she thought was important to hear. That wasn't for her. That was for everyone else. It was never about Brianna. She simply wanted other people to understand her experience so that other people could have a better shot in the future. A classic Brie, right? It was not about her. It was about volunteering to do something for someone else. You know, in the end, when I think about Brianna, I think about someone who's kind and generous and who volunteers to make other people's lives better. And she did this at the exact same time that she was fighting for her own life at that very moment. In the end, Brianna's body was not nearly a match for her spirit and her soul and her inner true self. I can only say that, you know, for me, I've just never met anyone like that. And I've been a doctor since around 1998, so I've met a lot of folks. But there's never been anyone quite like Brianna. And I know I speak on behalf of everyone else at UW who's helped to take care of her. We are blessed to have met her. We certainly got more out of that relationship than we gave to her, and we carry that with us. We are fortunate to have met her, to have helped extend her life, and also to have worked with her amazing family who are here today. She has made a huge difference in so many people's lives, and I see that here. All these faces, most of you are new to me, and it's just an amazing treasure for me to get to meet you. I know she'd be so proud of all of you here today. All of our patients are special, but Brianna was different. So I thank you for your support of her. Every one of you has touched her life, and I know that we've all been touched more by her than the opposite. Thank you so much.
expression of your name. Jesus, your name is power, breath and living water, such a marvelous mystery. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. All creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you.
Let's thank the band, shall we? Thank you. Thank you, Jim. I'd like to introduce Dr. I hope I'm pronouncing it, Macy Padden and Jasmine Feist. Where are you? Did I pronounce your names correctly? Okay. Yeah, let's welcome them to the stage, shall we? From Clover Valley Veterinary Hospital, where Bree started as one of only 3 employees. It was a small office, but she rose to the level of practice manager, whatever that means. But I think it was awesome. Come on over.
Yes, thank you. Well, I have to say, this is going to be difficult after that beautiful song. I think next time I want to be first in line. So, but I'm Dr. Macy, and Bree came into my life in 2012 after graduating from WSU, and we learned with a double major in animal science and zoology. She was a smarty pants. And she was looking to spend some time in the veterinary field, and that's because she wanted her application ready for veterinary school. We passed emails back and forth, and we spoke over the phone, and immediately I knew she was a kindred soul. She had a contagious energy, and she was ambitious and curious, and I hired her on the spot. She was my second employee ever, and I had just started my practice the year before, and I was literally running this practice out of my garden shed. We called it the dog office because it was also doubled as a dog house, and we shared it with my dogs. It was truly grassroots, from the ground up practice, and it was built on her shoulders. After that first summer, Bree decided to stay on with the practice and forego veterinary school, and I selfishly was ecstatic. She is my only employee to have worked in every position in the practice, so she had this unique and thorough understanding of every role in the veterinary team. And as the practice grew, Bree worked her way up to the ranks of practice manager, and in that role, she excelled. She was a true servant leader. She was devoted to the team and to the profession. She'd spend hours talking to clients and staff, working through tough issues. Bree was the great mediator. She had a natural way of diffusing stress and bringing calm and clarity to situations. She was also the first to offer support to any team member that needed it. She always remembered birthdays, special occasions, She was my better half in the business world. One thing that our practice is known for, because of Bree, is our biannual team retreats. Brianna would single-handedly design these day-long team retreats to help build practice morale and create a cohesive working environment. See, for Bree, the process was just as important as the results. In fact, she loved puzzles and riddles, and in many of these team retreats, in many of these team retreats would result in us running around town, finding clues and solving puzzles, and in the end, we would learn a profound lesson and grow together in ways that could not happen inside the clinic walls. One of her favorite leadership activities was the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. Now, Myers-Briggs, a lot of you know, yeah. Myers-Briggs is designed to reveal how people perceive the world around them and make decisions. And it's one of many practice management tools that's used to get different personality types to work well together. Now, everyone who's worked in my practice has done the test because of Bree. But Bree was an INTJ, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about INTJs. They form just 2% of the population, and women of this personality type are especially rare. They form just 0.8% of the population. People with INTJ personality types are imaginative yet decisive. They're ambitious but private, amazingly curious, but they do not squander their energy. They have a natural thirst for knowledge that shows itself early in life. INTJs are often given the title of bookworm as children. They enjoy sharing what they know as well. They're confident in the mastery of their chosen subjects. They prefer to design and execute a brilliant plan within their field rather than sharing opinions on uninteresting distractions like gossip. INTJs radiate self-confidence and an aura of mystery, and their insightful observations, original ideas, formidable logic enable them to push change through with sheer willpower and force of personality. And I think this describes Bree's leadership style to a T. Over these last few weeks, I've been reflecting on life and career, and there are only a handful of people that have truly impacted my journey, and Brianna is at the top of that list. She was a confidant, a dear friend, and she helped me grow professionally and personally, and I'm forever grateful to her. She led our team out of that dog office and into the practice we have today. And it has been one of the greatest pleasures in my life to work alongside Brianna.
I'm Dr. Jasmine. I had the pleasure of meeting Bree 4 years ago after I graduated from veterinary school at WSU. And we would joke later on that how we didn't meet each other at WSU, who knows, because we were in the same major at the same time. And it's not a very big class in animal science. I was fortunate to have known her because she influenced my life both personally and professionally, and she was a mentor of mine. Reflecting back on the times that we experienced together, one of those moments that you reflect back on in your career, one of those was with Bree. When my first spring as a veterinarian, I had a really bad weekend of on-call where I had 3 does that I had to euthanize due to complications with pregnancy, all of which could have been prevented had I been called out earlier. And it was one of those moments that I was eternally frustrated, and it wasn't the type of medicine I wanted to practice. I wanted to be able to provide for the animals and help people care for them, not euthanize something that I could have saved had I been out there earlier. When I came into work on Monday, Bree could tell right away that I had a bad weekend. And being the opposite personality type as Bree, generally I didn't like to talk about things, but she had a way of getting it out of me. She always had an open chair policy, you should say, because we didn't have doors when we first started. Dog office, right? And she was talking with me about it, and she's like, well, if it's something that can be prevented, how can we prevent it? We should form a plan to make it so it doesn't happen again. And the total Bree, plans are always her thing. So she came up with the idea of doing vet talks, which is she drive to our practice. Our first vet talk, she set up at Paul's Bocenics on lambing and kidding after our talk, and we had a full house. We actually were above capacity for the room. We were told by management that we couldn't take any more, and we were 10 over the number for the fire department. And it was one of those moments that I was relieved that people were wanting to learn, and I was refreshed that we could make a change, and thanks to Brianna, we were able to do that. The other impact that I think Bree really had on our practice team and also on the veterinary profession as a whole is that she started the WSU preceptor program with our practice. So for those of you that aren't familiar, in our 4th year of veterinary school, we go to different clinics where we spend time learning the art of medicine, because we can learn in books all day, but it takes a degree of finesse to learn the practice itself. It took about a year and a half for Bree to get the program at our practice, and it was definitely Bree driving it. Our first year was in 2014, and we had 2 students. This year, when Bree retired from the practice, I took over the externship program. And this year, we have over a dozen students that are coming to us from across the world. We actually have an international student this year coming from France. So because of Bree, we have an impact on the profession, not just across the United States, but also across the world, which I think is pretty amazing. Bree, one of Bree's goals, like we've heard, is always to go to veterinary school, but Dr. Macy and I believe that she's as much a veterinary professional as any of the rest of us, and she helped shape us as individuals. And because of that, we'd like to present her with an honorary veterinary degree. Before we start classes at all at WSU at veterinary school, we go through a white coat ceremony where we take a veterinarian's oath. And we're gonna read that for you guys. And while you listen to it, think about all those impacts that Bree had, both from public health and the veterinary profession as a whole.
Sure, okay. All right. Today we salute your unwavering dedication to your craft, to animals, and to the veterinary profession, and we welcome you as an honorary doctorate of veterinary medicine. The veterinarian's oath. Being admitted to the profession of veterinary medicine, I solemnly swear to use my scientific knowledge and skills for the benefit of society through the protection of animal health and welfare, the prevention and relief of animal suffering, the conservation of animal resources, the promotion of public health, and the advancement of medical knowledge. I will practice my profession conscientiously, with dignity, and in keeping with the principles of veterinary medical ethics. I accept as a lifelong obligation the continual improvement of my professional knowledge and competence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Macy. Thank you, Dr. Jasmine. Mayor Becky Erickson, there you are. Come right on up here, Mayor. Thank you for being such a huge supporter of all that happens in our community. I have the privilege of serving in the affordable housing area with Mayor Becky, and she's a huge supporter of all that takes place in our community, including the CF Walk. So please join us on the stage. Thank you.
God's great dance floor. That's where she is, right? Isn't that where she is right now? Yes, absolutely. And you know, one time when I was young, I had an old monk tell me that there were no animals in heaven. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There's dogs and horses and all kinds of spirits there. Because you know what? That's where Bree is. I have to admit, I'm having a tough time with this. I didn't know Bree very well. I really didn't. But what I did know was an amazing human being. Somebody said she glowed. She did glow. She absolutely glowed. And in my profession as a mayor, I meet lots of people. And she was one of the most rare. Really one of the most rare. The last time I saw her, she was wearing a bright green t-shirt. She had a mask over her face, and her eyes glowed with inner strength and inner peace and inner confidence and a sense of love. I think it was the love that made her glow. You know, it doesn't happen very often, very rare actually, where somebody comes into our world, and I call them community consciences. They are the conscience of a community. And that was Bree. She worked for others. She loved others more really than she loved herself. And she gave, and she gave, and she gave. Another person talked about volunteerism. Well, it was more than volunteerism, it was whole soul giving. That was the Bree that I met. That was the Bree that I met. But you know what? Bree's not gone. She's not gone. She is in the face of everyone sitting here today. She is with God, and God is in us. And she is in every face in this auditorium, in this church. And I think you all know that's true, because Bree touched every one of you, and you remember her with love. And that is what we really need to think about today. We need to think about the joy of that beautiful woman. And I hope you were here early enough to watch the film of all the faces, the happiness. She was filled with life. And she took that life and she gave it all to us. And now today is a day, yes, that we're sad. I'm really sad. But I'm also really joyful that I had an opportunity to know such a wonderful human being. And I would really think, unless I'm misunderstanding Bree, but I don't think I am, I think she would want us all to be happy here. She would want us to be joyful. Look at that face. She would want us to be joyful. So, God bless all of you today. God bless Bree's family. Be safe. Take care. Take care of yourself. And today, I want us all to remember the Brianna that was strong and vibrant and alive and glowed and is dancing on God's great dance floor. Thank you.
Well, we wanted to read a letter that the Oas family received from United States Senator Patty Murray. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Oas, I write to express my deepest condolences for the passing of your daughter, Brianna Oas Strand. A lifelong Washingtonian, Brianna faced challenges early in life due to her diagnosis with cystic fibrosis. Despite these challenges, I understand that Brianna lived a full life, one that eventually grew to include her husband, Nicholas. Brianna's resilience only became more apparent when she later contracted a hospital-acquired infection that was resistant to antibiotics. Rather than let this difficult setback get her down, Brianna took it upon herself to speak out about the dangers of antimicrobial resistance. She even came to Washington, D.C. to meet with my staff and join leaders from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and National Institutes of Health before an audience of policymakers about her experience and the importance of ensuring that other patients do not suffer. Your daughter's dedication to helping others and improving our healthcare system, even when she was facing all the burden that came with this chronic illness, is inspiring. She is an example to us all, and I'm proud to have been her senator. I am truly sorry for your loss. Sincerely, Patty Murray, United States Senator. At this time, I'd like to welcome Susan Ogilvie a close family friend of the Oas family for many years. Jim Oas, Brianna's dad, and Susan's family have been family friends for many generations. Susan's entire family has participated at the family CF walk every year and has been one of the largest supporters of the walk. Susan?
Good afternoon. I just want to briefly share with all of you a few words that I hope represent so many of you sitting here today. Our family, like many of yours, like was mentioned in the introduction, have been friends of the Oas family for generations. My parents were dear, dear friends with Jack and Wilma, Jim and Terry and Debbie's parents, grandparents of Kristen, Justin, and Brianna. And we've had the privilege of being dear friends with Jim and Val, Terry and Debbie these many years. Our children grew up together with the Oas children and have a precious friendship to this day. The bottom line here is that we're all here gathered to celebrate the life of Brianna, but what we really celebrate in addition to that is this legacy of family, faith, love, friendship, and hope. 2 days before Brianna went home to Jesus, I had a profound privilege to sit with Brianna and Nick. Her beloved by her side, she smiled at me with eyes that reflected heaven. Becky mentioned looking into those eyes, and truly, she had one foot in heaven already. You could see right in there. But she said to me, I know I'm going home to Jesus, and I'm peaceful and I'm excited. But she said, what will I do there? I had to admit, I haven't been there yet, so. But I shared with her a story of a 24-year-old young woman who was dying many years ago, who proclaimed, I will spend my heaven doing good on earth. That young woman said, whenever you see a rose, you'll know I'm talking to Jesus on your behalf when I'm gone. Brianna's eyes, those beautiful eyes, looked at me and they absolutely lit up. Her smile was huge and she said, I'm gonna do that too. As Brianna's days on earth touched and changed everyone she met, it still goes on still and shall continue as she spends her heaven doing good on earth. She's proving it right now. Look around you. She got hundreds of people to go to church on a Saturday afternoon. Very likely, Jesus just high-fived her in heaven and said, good job, Brianna. Good and faithful servant. She leads every soul closer to God throughout her life and forevermore. Brianna was always a trailblazer. She showed us how to dig deep, to hear, and to see the path ahead. But she could not have done this, her God-given work, without the love, example, and guidance of her parents, Jim and Val. And the loving relationship that taught her patience, fun, and joy through Kristen and Justin. We got to watch this, like all of you. Your faith, your total love for one another and your children taught Kristen, Justin, and Brianna how to change the world. We as a community thank you, Jim and Val, for giving us the example of how to raise our families. How can we thank you? Through the daily life and the walk of fawns and the multitude of other experiences we shared with you, we are all better people. And then there's Nick. Nick, we all watched and rejoiced in the beautiful love story you and Brianna continue to share with us and with the world. If we are gathered here to celebrate her life, then we are also here to thank you for making all her dreams come true. You completed her joy. You are so loved and appreciated. She will always come to mind in a million ways throughout our remaining years. We will be striving to be like her. And when we see the beautiful symbols like a rose, and in her case, her favorite wildflower that grew in her own woods, the trillium. It represents the Holy Trinity. We will know those signal graces of her being near us always. She once again will draw us closer to God. Brianna's love for us and her desire for our eternal life are well reflected in the words of this poet. And if I go while you're still here, know that I live on, vibrating to a different measure behind a thin veil you cannot see through. You will not see me, so you must have faith. I wait for the time when we can soar together again, both aware of each other. Until then, live your life to the fullest. And when you need me, just whisper my name in your heart, and I will be there. Brianna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Best friends, Brittany, Bonnie, Katie, come on up here, the three of you, and been friends of Bree since childhood.
Good afternoon, everyone. We would first like to thank everyone for being here to celebrate our incredible life of our friend Brianna. Most of you know us, but for those of you who don't, I'm Brittany, and Bree and I met when we were 2.
And I'm Bonnie, and that was my mom talking before us. We've known the Oases forever.
And I'm Katie. I met her around kindergarten.
Bree has been our best friend for nearly 30 years, and we are so happy to know that in her very full life, countless others were blessed to call her a best friend as well. Everyone who met Bree was instantly drawn in by her vivacious smile and her absolute zest for life. Her humble beauty and kind heart always outshined the difficulties that she had.
We would like to ask all of you to do a small favor for us and a great favor for Brianna. If you could all please take the deepest breath you can and hold it for 5 seconds, then let it out. Feels good, doesn't it? Now imagine what that would be like, to live your entire life not being able to do that. What would keep you going if you simply couldn't? Despite her illness, Bree was the most positive and selfless person any of us have ever known. So we ask you, what could have possibly made her this way? One simple word.
Faith. Many of you probably already know of Bree's unwavering faith and absolute love for Jesus, but we would like to share a little more. In her final days, she made it her mission for each of us to know how important it was for us to get right with God. Her own personal relationship with God left her no doubts about where she was going. She absolutely glowed when she talked about going to take her first breath of Jesus' air. She was so excited. She never complained. She never questioned why she'd been chosen to carry the cross she had. Her faith led her to a deeper understanding that most of us will never know.
She knew that when God called her home, she would stand beside him and take a deep breath of satisfaction while looking down on the faith she had left with all of us. The beautiful things she told us those last few days will forever stay with us our entire lives and have filled us with a new hope to have faith, like Brianna. We know she is at peace seeing the faith and love she has instilled upon us all, a faith many of you in this room have found because of her, or have maybe even found in this very moment.
I have always believed that everything happens for a reason. The answers might not be known right away. Eventually, they will come to us. Last year, each of us had pretty great losses. While Brianna by my side, I had to make the hard decision to put my beautiful horse Cuss down into heaven's rainbow bridge and greener pastures. I didn't understand why he had to leave so soon, but I understand now. It was through his sacrifice that I learned how to cope with one of the greatest losses of my life, the loss that we are all feeling today.
Since Bree's passing, so many things have taken on new meaning. I've been listening to a song called How You Live. The main line of that song states, "It's not who you knew, it's not what you did, it's how you lived." Bree truly lived her life in the most amazing and inspirational way. She showed us all the kind of life you can live when you don't let anything hold you back. I miss my friends so very much. But as Bree last said to us, this isn't goodbye. It's always seeing you.
We'll miss our treasured friend for the rest of our lives, but we promised her in those last days that after the things she told us and the faith she shared, that we'd be with her again. We'll be riding our horses together in heaven, and we promised her that we'll be together again. We'll see her again, and
then we'll take care of Nick.
Yeah, and then we'll take care of
You're stuck with us.
You're stuck, buddy. We promised her a lot of things, but most of them we can't really share. So maybe we'll share, though. She made us promise that every year in the first week of May, the Starbucks Frappuccino is s'mores, and that's her favorite one.
Frappy hour.
Yeah,
It's
during the
frappy
frappy hour, okay? And we have a video of her telling us that every year we have to get this s'mores Frappuccino and think of her. And
Which happens to be during her birthday.
during her birthday. So we have Frappuccinos here today, s'mores Frappuccinos for you guys to have. So that's for Bree. Have one and think of Bree. But we just want everybody to know, we want you all to find the same faith that Brianna had, because when you find that faith, that's where you're going to find Brianna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to see if I can make it through this song. Love you, Bree.
What does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone away? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth everything's different. There's an emptiness. Oh, I hope you're dancing in the sky, and I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived. Tell me, what do you do up in heaven? Are your days filled with love and light? Is there music? Is there art and invention? Tell me, are you happy? Are you more alive? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth everything's different. There's an emptiness. Oh, And I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived, since you arrived.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. At this time, we'd like to invite Brianna's brother, Justin.
Hello, I'm Erica, Bray's sister-in-law. When Justin asked me to be his wife, he also gave me the honor of having Bree as a sister. And I'm so blessed to have been able to be a part of her journey and so grateful for the time we had together, especially this past year when Bree and Nick let us live with them. I always looked forward to our morning coffee and talking for hours. Plus, Bree always brought snacks, which Jack really loved, especially when it was fruit snacks. There are so many memories and so many special things that I loved about Bree. There just aren't enough words, and she was one of a kind, and just to know her was to love her. Bree was full of passion, she was full of opinions, and didn't hold back on what she stood for and believed in. And I always respected that about her. Even in her last days, she looked at everyone in the family and said, "You better find Jesus as your Savior, because I want to see you in heaven." She didn't want us to cry for her, which, sorry, Bree. She didn't want goodbyes. She wanted us to say, "I'll be seeing you." So, Bree, I love you. I miss you, but I'll be seeing you. Thank you.
There's a lot of people. Only for Bree would I come up and talk up here. It's hard to know what to say. You know, there's just so many things you can share. So I had to write it down because otherwise I'll probably forget. The other day, our whole family, we went around and we shared a word that we thought best described Bree to us and how we felt about her. Every one of us shared words that had similar meanings about how we felt, and I feel like they applied to all of us. Words of joy, strength, love. I think most people here would use those same words to describe Bree. From a really young age, you know, as siblings, Bree and I had a really strong bond. And it wasn't until we were older that we really became close as friends. Bree moved off to college. Eventually, Eric and I moved down to Texas. But I think that time away is what really brought us close. I'm not much for talking on the phone, but Bree and I would talk on the phone every week, sometimes multiple times a day. And we'd just share stories, dreams, stresses. You know, we just could talk to each other. During this time, I feel like that's when we found little small connections that we never realized that we had. We both had a passion and love for animals. We both had really vivid dreams, and we would always remember them, really strange dreams, so we would share those with each other. We both have this weird sound that comes from our throat randomly, and it's funny that we both had that and didn't realize it. We both love food, we both love coffee. Bree came down to visit us a few times in Texas. We even managed to go down to Nicaragua together on a trip. When it was finally time to move back up, Bree flew down and rode back with me in the moving truck. Erica and her mom and Jack drove separate. We drove north through Amarillo and up through South Dakota. Bree insisted on using a real map and not using GPS. And we planned our trip based on books that she had found on weird roadside attractions and strange places to eat. I don't know if you've ever seen the world's largest hairball in Garden City, Kansas, but we have a picture. It weighs 55 pounds. Before we bought our house, we got to live with Nick and Bree. It would end up being about a year, and it was really brave of you and Bree to let us live there with a toddler. But I'm going to cherish that time for the rest of my life. Some days we'd hardly see Bree, but I would hear her upstairs watching The Office. We'd smell her cooking tacos late at night. And then, like Erica was saying, Bree would come down and Nick if he was home, and we'd have coffee in the morning and just hang out, and it was just, I loved that time. I'll always remember that. Comfort, that was the word that I used to describe how I felt about Bree. That's how she made me feel. I always felt comfortable around here. I could spend days with her. We did in a moving truck. We spent days together, and I didn't want that trip to end. I never got tired of being around her. I always wanted to be in her presence. I don't think even Erica feels that way about me sometimes. But last night, as I was thinking about, what I was going to say today, I realized that Bree wanted all of us to have that same comfort. Even in her last days here on earth, she made it abundantly clear that she knew where she was going and that her journey was not over, it was just beginning. She had comfort in that hope, the same hope that we were all promised, and she wanted everyone to have that same comfort in that promise. I know I will see her again someday, and I have comfort knowing that. I love you, Bree.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Justin. Kristen, Bree's sister, coming right now.
So Riley's joining me up here because she has some words she wants to share as well. But I chose, in spending the last couple days with Bree, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. I wanted to be happy and positive. And I think I only broke down crying maybe twice. And we were together for like 3 or 4 days straight. And so I think I'm making up for it today. I chose to write a letter to Bree, and because I, as her older sister, loved to pick on her and annoy her, because she picked on me and annoyed me growing up. She wasn't as much of a morning person as me, and I'm very much a morning person, so I would call and wake her up, and I found out later that she used to complain to my mom about it, but I would call her every morning until 3 weeks ago at 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. driving the kids to school, and usually telling her, "You will not believe what the kids did this morning," or Hank peed on the dogs, or I don't know, stuff like that. And half the time she sounded asleep, and but it would get a good laugh out of her. So, dear Bree, hey girl, it's only been 3 weeks and 1 day since we last spoke, which is by far the longest we have gone our entire life not talking. And we both love to talk. It's weird, and I don't think that this will ever feel normal. I find myself speaking to you every day and catch myself as I pick up the phone to dial you for our normal early morning chat, or calling you in between running kids to and from. I've just been pretending to myself that you're gone at school again. And when our family has gotten together these last couple weeks, I wait for you to pull in the driveway. And on a side note, I have started calling Nick, which is weird because I can't have the same conversations with you. But It's a nice, it's a nice second, I guess. Bree, you know, I don't think there was ever anything left unsaid between us, ever. And I think that's why I felt so happy for her when I knew she was leaving us, because I knew she was going to be out of pain. And I didn't feel like there was anything that we didn't get to say to each other. Bree, you could put up with my never ever wanting to hurt anyone's feelings, trying to encourage me to be a little tougher and honest with my feelings and to stand up for myself more. And you were so good at telling it like it was, and half the time would end up hurting my feelings. But then knowing you were just trying to be honest with me out of your love for me and wanting the situation to be better or me to be stronger. And I thank you for that and believing in me. I still remember how excited I was, well, at first, anyways, to have a little sister, but I was only 5 and I had to share a room with her. So then I think of all the times that I was so annoyed with having a little sister too, and how lucky that you, Jay, and I, or Justin, to have grown up the way we did. Mom and Dad really are the coolest parents, and now are the coolest grandparents too. All 3 of us learned so much compassion, faith, and true grit from them and the way we grew up. Most of all, we learned what family is, and a lot of that is because of Bree. We always supported each other from the time we were little, Justin and his BMX bike riding, or you and I, Bree and I, with our horses. I remember the time when we dared Dad to ride my horse Colonel bareback, and he cantered all the way up the driveway. And we laughed so hard. I miss Bree's laugh. Or when we dressed Justin up as a girl and we even got him to wear pantyhose. And Dad was not happy about that. Or when we took our baby geese outside on the trampoline and put the sprinkler underneath and jumped with them as they were learning to fly. When Mom got really mad because we snuck Tom, our really big Thanksgiving turkey, inside before he and Sam butchered him. Or even when we tried bringing my horse Blue in the house when Mom and Dad were gone. One of my favorite memories with you, Bree, was when you and I flew down to visit Justin while he was working and living in San Diego. Bree was 17, Justin, you were 22, and I was 23. And Bree was so excited to get her first tattoo, and for some reason, all 3 of us thought that we could either forego the age requirement, because we were in California, or that we could forge Mom's signature and be able to get her a tattoo before she was 18, which didn't work. So then we were excited to go to Mexico. We did not get a tattoo there, but we ended up in Tijuana, which is not that great for Mexico. But we went to a restaurant with Bree, and we sat up on the balcony, and this guy was running around that didn't speak any English, blowing a whistle, and he had a tool belt on. And his tool belt was filled with bottles of tequila. And he grabbed Bree by her hair and yanked her head back before anything and stuck a bottle in her mouth. And the funniest part was, we were all kind of speechless as it happened. But Bree, you were the most grossed out at the thought of how many people's mouths have been on the bottles. We laughed pretty hard. I love that we've shared so many experiences and memories our whole entire life. And another funny one was just a few years ago, and it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, and Mom and Dad had decided to get a Wii, and Jake and Dad decided to do a dance-off to Michael Jackson's Just Beat It. And I love that laughter filled our family so much, our family's life and Bree's life. Bree, your laugh is contagious. One of my fondest memories just a few years back was when Mom, Jake, and you, Bree, helped deliver Hank, who's now 4. It was so amazing to have all of you there. Even though I think secretly, Bree, she kept telling me that she was there just to keep Jake from passing out. All of these memories don't even start to scratch the surface on the things we as a family have done and the memories we have created. We are so lucky and so blessed. Hank has asked a few times over the last few weeks why he can't just call you on your cell phone in heaven. Because he wants to come over and play, and he and Riley want to have a sleepover. I wish too, Bree, you had your cell phone in heaven. I don't think I really appreciated the fact that you and I were more than siblings or best friends. Knowing how much I look up to you, even though according to me you were only 5'1", and according to you, I was 5'11". So it's quite a bit of inches between us. You are simply and truly amazing, Bree. The one and only word that I think sums this up for me means a person who is admired for courage, outstanding achievements, and noble qualities and character. Someone noted for their courageous acts, fighting against adversity, often sacrificing for their own personal concerns or well-being given for the greater good. Bree, this is you. Every definition and description of the word hero, I find, defines you. And the way you lived your life, believing and inspiring others, exemplifying the true meaning of a friend, confident, biggest fan, my little sister, and my life hero. I love you, Bree, more than you will ever realize. Love, your big sister, Kristen. So then Riley, my oldest daughter, would like to read what she wrote about her Auntie Bree as well. I don't know Mike's.
I'm Riley. I am Bree's oldest and only niece. My mom has always told me since I was a little kid that I was a spitting image as my auntie, full of sass, energy, and spark. I have always gotten to spend a lot of time with Bree, and she always made me feel special. My favorite thing to do when I was over at Bree's was planning with her. She loved it so much when I spent time with her. My favorite thing about Bree is she was always encouraging and positive. For example, at my soccer games, she was always cheering me on, saying, "Go Riley, you got this." I thought to myself, best aunt in the world. Still from this day, I have some great memories, but only one favorite. I think the coolest thing about Bree was she had so many animals. She had 2 horses, 1 pony, 1 bull, 1 cow, 1 potbelly pig, 1 tortoise, 1 hedgehog, 2 dogs, about 6 kittens, and last but not least, 2 full-grown cats. Pretty amazing, right? I mean, who's joking there? Okay, the thing that always made her fun was she kept a smile on her face, no matter what. Whenever she said, "I love you," I knew she meant it a lot. Before she passed, she specifically said, "I have 4 things you need to remember. 1, keep a smile on your face. 2, always eat dessert first. 3, never let my father teach you how to drive. And 4, you're like my little sister, not my niece. That's everything I love about my Aunt Bree. Your niece, Riley Johnson."
Justin, pantyhose. Tell us more. I mentioned earlier that it felt like Bree was a hero. I think we all feel that. She learned that somewhere. And I think that embodied in her parents is that, Jim and Val Oas. And knowing the Oas, I don't know, too many years, and we probably both care to remember. But what we saw in Bree, Jim and Val, I've seen you in so many years. And some know of your commitment to others and your dedication to help other people in need. And we saw that in Bree. And I'd like to thank you and welcome you to the stage today. Jim and Val Oas, Bree's parents.
Okay, I'm going to give this my best shot. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I feel so blessed for so many friends and family. I have to wear these. Bree kept lots of notes and journals, and I'd like to share what Bree wrote about herself at age 18 on her Facebook page. I'm wacky and chill, a little crazy and goofy, opinionated and stubborn and moody at times. But I always like to have a good old time and live life to the absolute limit. I was born and raised a country girl who tries her best to abide in the Father and will forever be that way. I love being with my family and miss them so much. My friends are incredible, new and old. I love animals, especially my horses, cows, and a dog. That's a good hint why that was her major in college. I love the simple things in life, love to have fun and dance the night away. I also like staying in and watching movies. I love food, any food. Crave espresso 24/7. That was our Brie. I love reading and have an uncanny thirst for knowledge. I love living with my other half, and I am so incredibly psyched to become an aunt for the first time in December. That was 10 years ago. That's how she described herself. Since that time, she's added a few more animals, of which she loved having around her all the time. Bree loved quotes and special sayings. She had them all over her desk at work, her desk at home, and all over her refrigerator and in her journals. She stood beside them and followed them. I'd like to share some of her favorites and my favorites. The wise man in the storm praised God not for safety from danger, but from deliverance from fear. They say when you die, your life flashes before you, make it worth watching, and she did just that. A word to the wise ain't necessary, it's the stupid ones that need the advice. And if you knew Bree, that was definitely her motto. My absolute favorite was Brianna's quote, "Choose your attitude, create your life." That was so true, and she did just that. I know you've heard from her best friends. She has so many best friends, and I consider her my best friend. I know you're my best friend, but she was my best girlfriend. Definition of a best friend is positive, open, honest, and real. Brianna was real. Someone that you trust, someone that listens to you, someone that keeps your secrets, someone that's very loyal. The first person you call and share and confide in, and I think every one of us did that in the family. Showing another human being that you care, free of judgment. She never judged you. We could talk for hours. Late night at Sherry's restaurant was our specialty on Wednesdays. That's free pie night. We would talk as mother and daughter or just two girlfriends. Kind of like the one of her favorite TV shows besides The Office was Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend. That was her go-to saying. I feel unimaginable pain, suffering, and sorrow again and again. When joy comes, however, and whenever it does, it is pure joy. I feel all of it deeply. The love, the grief, the joy, the pain. Take nothing for granted. Being her mom was the best gift I'd ever been given, and even death can't take that away. I love you, Bree.
I have Romeos on. So. When we were talking about the doctors in her life, one that I wanted to mention, and he's the reason that Brianna went over to Seattle to be looked at in the pulmonary department at Children's Hospital, was Dr. Pat Tracy from Paulsbo here. And he was instrumental in her care in her early years too, because he communicated with them all the time over there, and he was her advocate in this county, and we really appreciate everything he did through those years. I love all of my children, and even though we knew that this day was going to come eventually, like most people, you put it off and you try not to think about that, and it did ramp up pretty fast, and some mornings we wake up and we still think, did this really happen, you know? And we're coming up on 4 weeks now. But it seems like it might be not the natural order to have your child leave before you, but that's not necessarily God's order. And He's sovereign. I've never been angry about what happened at all. I just miss her so very much. But what God has done in my life because of Brianna and Kristen and Justin, it's made me who I am today, and I am so thankful for that time that I had with them. But Brianna, I miss you so much. Her nickname for me was Boo Boo, and nobody called her that but I, and that was an endearing comment. So I've been this looks pretty thick. Sorry, this looks pretty thick, but it's actually 82 font, so it's not so bad. So
with glasses on too.
Yeah, with glasses as well. So I've been assured by friends and Scripture both that things are going to get easier, but I'm waiting patiently, and we both have our moments. So there's others here today that have gone through something similar to this, and they've reached out to us, and we're so thankful for that, and it's really helped a lot. I have to say there's so many cards, flowers, and food that were given to us by friends and family that were such a blessing, and I want to say thank you for that as well. I know I shouldn't list names because you're always going to forget somebody, but there's just a couple I want to mention before I tell you what I want to say. And one is Gateway Fellowship, and the staff and the body of believers that go here have been just fantastic, and we're so thankful. And I knew Pastor Tom back in the 80s when his hair had no gray or white. Steve and Debbie Hill through the years have just been fantastic with us. And the Ogilvy extended family, we're going into the 4th generation of friends between the two families. Red Apple of Paulsbo, Wally Hill, and the Lindula family, and Brittany, Bonnie, and Katie. So there's a difference between moments with God and God moments. And moments with God are times when you stop to read Scripture or to pray and to think about what it's going to be like in heaven. And those are moments with God. But God moments are when you're going about your life and He meets you right where you are at that time, whether you're in a good place or a bad place, going through difficulty or not. But lots of times it is when you're going through difficulty. And there's little miracles that'll take place. You might not otherwise notice or pay attention, but maybe you're more sensitive during harder times. The Holy Spirit has things that He'll do in your life, and you'll stand back and say, wow, I can't believe that just happened. And I wanted to share some of those with you. They're kind of personal things, but also worth sharing, I believe. And so in the darkest times in a person's life, there is hope. God will reveal Himself to you. And since Brianna has graduated to heaven, as we like to say it, I think Nick might have been the first one to coin that, I don't know, but since she graduated to heaven, there's been no less than 3 young people that have reached out to us, and they want to know what Brianna knew and what made her like she was, and they're searching now for God in their life. 3 different people, and it's just pretty amazing. So they want to start a relationship with Christ too, and find out what there is for them. I've gotten phone calls because of how her story on social media has affected some people. I got a phone call from the Dominican Republic at my house, and I got one from the Republic of Congo in Africa. I got 2 calls from California and an email from Japan and then a lot of people local that have reached out. And when that started happening, it kind of quickened my senses about what her story of her life is doing in some other people's lives. So, and I hope you all take this the right way, because I believe in things like this. But a friend of ours at church who had never met Brianna, she had a dream about Brianna, and she had never met Brianna, but she knew what our family was going through. She's a prayer warrior. Every morning she's praying for different situations, different people. And she had a dream, though, about Brianna being in a field in a wedding dress, running, saying, "I'm free." She had never seen that photo. She doesn't have a smartphone. She has a flip phone, no smartphone, no Facebook account. She'd never met Brianna. She doesn't own a computer. And another friend of mine, who is really good friends with this lady, reached out to me and said, "Jim, you're not going to believe the dream that Ginny had." And she told me about it. I said, "Oh my goodness." So our mutual friend said, "Can I show her the picture of Brianna?" And I said, "By all means." And she did that, and it was just amazing how similar her dream was, and in the photo. And that just gave Valerie and I comfort. It gave us comfort. But what was also kind of amazing is just a couple weeks ago, Pastor Mario here was speaking. We're going through Nehemiah. He was speaking, and he talked about dreams and how important they are, and God will talk to us in dreams, but we have to pay attention and listen and then evaluate them. And that was just after this happened. So, like I say, some people say that's just a coincidence. Well, God's used to hearing that, but I don't believe it was. But anyway, so many of you know that Brianna was getting a little bit sicker ever since she came back from Washington, D.C. in February, and we were praying that she was going to make her 30th birthday, but I think she had told you a year ago or last year she didn't think she was going to get there, but we so were praying that she would. And if you count the 9 months in the womb, she was really close. But so during all the stressful times, she was always so positive, and she was just a very up person. In all the years that she grew up, she didn't complain. I've never heard her complain about having CF. She just didn't do that. She had some fear of the unknown because she's never crossed over before, never died. But there was a little bit of fear, but she had peace. And she had joy. Although she was weak, she had strength that came from the inside that was just amazing. When the doctors told her that they were sorry, that the antibiotics were no longer effective, and that she was dying, to unplug her feeding tube and all of her, she had a peg in her arm, and she had a portacath in her chest, and oral meds and inhalers. Put it all aside, go home and be with your family. And the doctor said he was so sorry that he couldn't do more for her because he really did care for her. And she said, "Do not be sorry. You've done everything you can. You have nothing to be sorry for." And I remember her telling the doctor that, and I said, "Wow, what a brave and caring person to have that come back out of you." And I just see that Jesus Christ was alive in her, every day. And she may not talk about it every day, that Christ is her Savior, but she acted it out every day. And it reminds me from a story from 1936. I'm not reading the whole thing, just the last part. It's by Mary Stevenson. It's called Footprints in the Sand. And at the end, the Lord replied, "The times when you have seen only one set of footprints is when I carried you." So I've done a lot of crying in the last couple of weeks. Sometimes it comes on, you don't expect it, and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm trying to, we'll see how this goes. But she took everyone in our family and some of her best friends and talked to us individually, not as a group, but individually, because she cared about every person for themselves. It was such great closure, and so many other people who have lost children didn't get closure, and they so wish that they could have. the times in the last 3 days when she came home from the UAW to our house, our whole family camped out there for the last 3 days. It was amazing. And we all took turns laying with her, holding her hand in a bed. In fact, on the Saturday, the 6th, she got a surge of energy, which patients sometimes do. She went outside with blankets wrapped around her in a wheelchair on 6 liters of oxygen, and she spent the afternoon with her girlfriends eating pizza and other junk food, candy that they had brought over. No feeding tube. She was chewing it and swallowing it. It was so awesome to see that. Riley got to show the gymnastic routine to her that she's going to be doing at school, later in the week. And it was a very special time. And so I wrote Brianna about a half-page letter that was really full of the important things I needed her to know, how I felt about things. And she read it, and we both cried, laughed. So Pastor Tom and Pastor Don Melendez both came out to our house, and Tom had the very early morning wake-up call. Don was just a later in the day thing. And it's great to have other brothers and men of faith you can call on, and they're there immediately. And the Tylers have been so supportive of us, too, whenever we needed anything. When she came in from that Saturday of being with her friends, she was really worn out and tired. And when she finally laid back into all the pillows and went to sleep that night, I didn't think I was going to share this, but I got to. Justin and Nick had been trying to get Brianna to go to sleep for 20 minutes, and she was leaning forward with a pillow in her chest, trying to breathe. Her eyes were at half-mast. She was very worn out. This was on Saturday night. So Justin was on her left, Nick was on her right, if I remember right, and after 20 minutes, trying to get her to lay back, she had said, I just feel like if I go to sleep now, I'm not going to wake up again. And she didn't want that to happen. But finally, Nick just pushed her shoulder back, and she laid back into all the pillows. And Nick said, see, isn't that better? And then Brianna's response with her eyes closed is, all you had to do was ask. And so Brianna went to sleep that night, and she didn't wake up consciously after that point. So the next morning, I went to church, and I was on the worship team here playing, and I know there's people that said, how could you have done that? But I do know Bree wanted me to be here. And it was a little time away from the stress, and it was good. So I went back home about noontime and wanted to see how she was doing, and she was still there sleeping. And her lungs were very fragile, and they weren't expelling all of the carbon dioxide, the CO2, and that was giving her headaches and affecting her organs, and that's why she started to go. And we felt her mind could still hear us. The whole family talked about this. When we change family members laying with her, holding her hand, we would pray with her and talk with her. But her breathing for a couple of breaths would change every time we said, who's coming in and laying with her. It's like we don't know for sure, but we felt like she could hear us, and that was the only way her body could respond to talk to us, because she couldn't wake up. But she would change her breathing just a little bit. And so that was comforting. I hope it's true, but it was very comforting. So we'd been camped out all day long, and here got to be 10:30 on Sunday night. Kristen and Jake had been off work all week. He was going to go back to work on Monday, and the kids had preschool and school. Kristen said, Dad, I need to go tell Bree that I'm leaving for the night, and I'll be back Monday morning. So we went into the back bedroom, all of us. The whole family was there. Even Riley was standing in there. And Nick had rolled up some towels and put next to Bree's head so she didn't turn her head too much. And she was taking labored breaths, but we were there with her the whole day, and it was just very surreal, calm, and peaceful. So Kristen said, Bree, I got to leave. I'll be back in the morning. And Jake's got to go to work, and the kids got to go to school. We've been here, for a number of days now. And what a bonding time it's been. And So after she got done telling Brianna that, she said, Dad, why don't you pray? And so I did. And in the middle of the prayer, I released her to Christ. I said, we can't do any more. I'd have nobody, there's nobody I'd rather turn her care over to than Jesus. And so we finished the prayer. This is good because I was really crying a couple days ago getting to this point. So we turned her care over to Christ, and we said amen, and we finished. And we just stood there. And so we started the prayer about 10:30. And all of a sudden, and I know this happens to patients, somebody from hospice said this, and so it's really kind of neat. We were sitting there, she'd been asleep all day. All of a sudden, Brianna's eyes popped open, and Justin said that they were dilated, so it's not like she was looking at us sitting on the bed with her. Her eyes popped open, she took 2 deep breaths, and she passed. So we were all there with her. So during all the years we raised our kids, we had 3 other kids, and Carrie's here, and Erica's here, and I don't remember who the third was. We've had 3 different people that lived with us, and that were not our own kids. And when Erica moved in with us, Justin moved to Bremerton, so they were not both living with us, but Erica was. And then she became our daughter-in-law later. And so all I can tell you is that it's so important to invest in our youth. And, the more aged I get, the more I realize that. And we're very happy with our family and been blessed in many ways because of it. And I just wanted to emphasize that about our youth. It's so important. But Corrie ten Boom said this, and I've always liked this quote. I've always used this quote for many years, but I said it a little more graphically. But I went and looked it up, and it's a little bit softer the way that Corrie wrote it. I used to talk about breaking your fingers when God took something away from you, but that's not how she quoted it. So Corrie ten Boom said this: hold loosely onto the things you cherish, so your fingers are not hurt when the Father takes them from you. And no bandages. Another friend of mine that was up here in the worship team, he told me that, and reminded me that a candle, when lighting out another candle, doesn't lose any of its light. And that is so true. And Brianna lit so many candles in her 29 years. And it reminds me of that song that I learned in Sunday school, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." And I know if she was standing up here, she'd say, "Stop it, Dad, just stop it." I'm almost done. So a verse that was shared with me from somebody in Psalm 116:15 says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." And why is that? Because what we see here on earth as death, God sees as one of his own coming home to be with him for eternity. And it's not going to be boring in heaven. I know it's not. And I'm excited for her, but I miss her so much. And I made her promise that it would be hugs and kisses as soon as I arrive. The shortest verse, I'm almost done, but the shortest verse in the Bible is John 11:35. It says, Jesus wept. His good friend Lazarus had died, and Jesus did raise him from the dead, and that's a famous story. But before that happened, Jesus wept. He knows what it's like to lose those that we love, and he knows sorrow. And Psalm 139:14 says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it well. And Brianna was known by God before she was born, and wonderfully made she was. He used her to bless many other people in ways we even fail to see today. Her support system from day one was everything that we as a family could hope for. She never went to any doctor clinic visits her whole life without having Nick or one of our family members go with her. She was never by herself. And she'd been under general anesthetic 19 times, I think it was, for various things, a lot of sinus surgeries. And Valerie used to take 2 weeks at a time off from work and live at Children's Hospital with her when she had surgeries going on. And I think health insurance programs now don't allow you to stay quite as long, but back then it was usually a 2-week stay. And I'm very proud of my whole family, and I want to close with this. This is Dr. Greg Redding from Children's. He told us, probably within 6 months of Brianna being diagnosed, we'd gone back over, and Dr. Redding saw us that clinic visit, and he told Valerie and I and Brianna that he was more concerned with her quality of life rather than her quantity, or words very similar to that. In fact, we've been at the CF Gala, and you ran into him, and we talked about that before, many years later. And at the time, we didn't understand what he meant by that. But we do now, and just a few days short of her 29th birthday, she lived a lifetime in those 29 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Val. Nick, come on up here, Bree's husband. Wow, I don't know anyone who passionately loves their spouse like you, Nick, and wanted this day to be perfect. I have never had so many emails. Our team has never had so many emails, and setting this day up, it's because you wanted it to be perfect. And we want to say thank you for letting us be a part of this day. Thank you, Nick.
I myself wrote something because I'm not good on the mic either, but here's what I wrote. It all started in 2007. Brianna was Secretary of State Officer for the Washington State FFA. I was the technical director. We started every year in August, starting to plan their convention and their convention that happened in May. As a team, we would work together to bring their end of the year Washington State FFA convention to life. They brought the story, I enhanced it through technology. I remember sitting in one of the meetings over in Pullman as it was in the first year of my college, last year of college at WSU. We were at the Daily Grind, one of Brianna's favorite coffee houses. All of us were sitting in a meeting room, brainstorming ideas for the videos. I remember we started to poke fun at Brianna, and I couldn't help but join in. Now, making fun of someone else isn't always the nicest thing to do, but Brianna had that sense of joy and fun about herself. It was then I saw her little kid personality shine through, introducing me to her happy, sad face. She was trying not to laugh at herself, but had to break into a smile because it was funny. Not many people can do that, laugh at themselves. And that was the first time I witnessed the sparkle in Brianna and the strength within. After all these meetings, laughter, fun, never once did I ever realize she had an extreme fight happening inside. Her sparkle was always brighter. Through the convention, we grew very close as friends. I could sense we had something more. It wasn't until I helped her with her retiring address a few months later that I learned of her superhuman strength within. I remember the day I told my mom that I think I had found that special person in my life, my soulmate. I had just clued Brianna in that I might have feelings for her, that I might actually love her. I remember lighting up like a little boy, sharing the joy that Brianna brings to the world in her fight with CF to my mom. I'll never forget the joy my mom shared with me and the excitement followed by the pure worry of me and what could come with someone with a disease that will most likely take their life. At that time, I was a young boy in love, but like my mom always taught me, judge a person by the love and character, not by their outside physical condition. At that age, I really had no idea what I was signing up for. Really, you never have time to sit down and plan fate. But I knew I was in love with a person that brought so much light into the world that it completely weakened the strength of the negativity cystic fibrosis could have on people. But that was the power of Brianna. I loved that about her. She was her. And being drugged behind her was her little annoying friend, CF. We began seeing each other often, talking about a possible relationship and how we might be able to make this work. We talked about my love for technology and my dreams to go on the road. We talked about her dreams of being a vet and possibly a horse dentist. We both felt very strongly about providing support in each other's dreams, as we both understood that's what helped us make us who we were. I remember early in our relationship talking about these dreams. I had proposed the idea of a 10-year plan and how we could make this work. I was a forward thinker then. Everything was planned out. I wanted her to know that I had a plan and we could make this work. Come to find out, it all turned out to be a blessing. As time went on, we began dating, flourishing in our love and passion for one another. There was nothing more exciting than just talking or being with the other person's presence. We had such amazing compassion for one another. We never really listened to the radio when we drove places. We just talked together, talked about life, talked about reality, talked about love, and at times death. Never really have a dull moment, never losing a sense to just want to keep talking. At first, we were worried about my career and having a long-distance relationship. You see all over how they turn out bad and never work out. But that didn't happen with us. We became stronger, more passionate, more connected, more as one. It was a refreshing feeling every time we saw each other for the first time. When I would get home from a trip on the road, a sensation of joy and sparkle would reignite. Now, me being gone for the work wasn't always pleasant. Both feeling lonely made things difficult. I remember just a year after we started dating, Brianna brought home Bentley, our first fur ball of the family. You see, Brianna had an unconditional love for animals, so much so at times we wondered if it was more than humans. Bentley kept Brianna company when I was gone, never leaving her side, tagging along wherever Brianna would go. The two were literally inseparable. So much so, Bentley could read right into Brianna's soul. He knew when she was happy, sad, or about to shed a tear. He was her guardian angel. I remember times we would have to leave Bentley at home, and Brianna didn't know what to do with herself, as all she wanted was the company of her animals. If she could have her wish, wherever we would go, our entire funny farm would be in tow. As a few years passed, I remember many times talking about marriage, catching Brianna practicing her signature with her last name in it, to having strong talks about how we foresee our future. After doing some planning, I proposed to her January 7, 2011, at Spokane Falls, eating at our favorite restaurant in Spokane, Klinkerdaggers. Nervous as can be, I brought her outside after eating. We walked out to the falls. I dropped to one knee, speechless. Finally got the words out. Will you marry me? She said yes. Her face lit up, filled of joy and happiness. There was no better joy in my life than making Brianna happy. I saw the world through Brianna's eyes. To see her smile was the happiest thing on earth for me. We both loved each other's smiles, so much so we both caught on to the other's pre-smile characteristics. Hers was the right lip would buckle right before she would break into a smile. Mine was my ears would twinkle, my eyes would twinkle right before my smile. She told me. You see, this was a beauty about her, just always made me weak at the knees. Her hair was soft, and one of my favorite joys was watching her ride her horses as her hair flew in the wind. July 11, 2011, we married each other, and Brianna took my last name. It was such an amazing joy. Thankfully, because of my career, I had some money saved up and got to surprise her with one of the amazing honeymoons, a trip to Jamaica. Somehow, I barely kept it a secret all the way up to the airport. You see, my love for her and excitement to share things with her made keeping a secret from her impossible. Honestly, somehow, I think that was the only secret I kept from her, our honeymoon. Much like our life, I had the entire trip planned out, stress-free and relaxing, fun, packed week we will never forget. From horseback riding in the ocean, riding with dolphins, bamboo boat ride down Jamaican River, to just relaxing on the beach. Once again, talking about life. You see, up until this point, cystic fibrosis was never really an issue. CF was completely headlocked in Brianna's arms, completely smothered in the joy and happiness life brought us. A couple high on life with no real issues. Attending doctor's appointments every few months was about it. It wasn't until late 2011 when Brianna's every so often infections that took very little to tackle began to stay vocal, present, and not fully taken care of. That's when we were referred to the UW Medical Center Infectious Disease to see Dr. Pottinger. Appointments took months to get in, and with Mycobacterium slow progressing infection, there wasn't extreme rush to get in. This timed out just right with Brianna graduating WSU and us moving back to the west side to begin our future, be closer to our families, and tackle the world in her superhuman ways. It was around this time we got the tragic news about my mother being diagnosed with lung cancer. We had just got to Paulsville, was unloading our belongings into the storage unit, when we got the word Mom was in the ICU because of a brain aneurysm. Just a day after she was with us, helping us move. During this time, Brianna gave me strength, yet helped my family get through such a difficult time. Brianna never was extremely vocal about her faith. She was always strong and confident about her faith, but never forced it on people, condemned someone for believing differently. She was comfortable with her relationship with God and didn't have a fear not to. I remember while my mom was dying and the cancer slowly took over her body, listening to my mom and Brianna talk about heaven and God was truly inspiring. While the entire family was completely distraught, sad, Brianna had this sense of understanding and peace and strength about death and heaven. It freaked my mom out a little, but not in a bad way. I remember my mom asking me where her strength came from. At that time, I myself didn't have much of an answer, besides the astonishing amazement I had for her. Come to find out, I was still learning myself of how amazing she truly was. Brianna helped me through all these times. She gave me strength, courage, and pure confidence, always reminding me everything will be okay and to turn everything over to God. At times, my stress would overpower my strength, but even then, her faith with God always prevailed. This time was hard for me. As you could imagine, losing your mom, especially at a young age, was difficult for me. I today am still processing it. When my mom died, Brianna became my only companion. Before, she was my best friend, but we all know our moms maintain a small piece of our heart. And mom was an additional soft, warm heart to talk to, someone who helped me through tough times. After Mom was gone, Brianna was really all I had. I mean, we told each other everything, even if it was something that I was frustrated about Brianna. She was the only person I wanted to talk to about it. Our communication was always clear and direct. It helped clear the room of the many elephants that can sometimes hinder a relationship. Around this time is when Brianna's UW infectious disease visits began. Near our first visits, we learned Brianna's lungs had grown out a microbacterium and a superbug. They called it abscessus. Not abscess, but abscessus. A form of the new battle brewing inside. Already with compromised lungs of just simple battles with CF, her body was heading straight into a super war. Before this time, our relationship really never involved those hospital stays or severe infections. Bree was always confident we would prevail, and once again, God in the end had control and would lead us. It was hard on both of us, but really it was harder on me. I remember many times leaving the doctor's appointments full of hope, yet scared about reality. Each time I shared my concerns, my worry about life, Brianna always reassured me that everything was going to be okay and turn everything back to God. Being a practical person, that was hard. Facts seemed to hinder my fate, but always was able to push those aside and get back to enjoying life, much like Brianna always seemed to do so easily. Even when the struggle seemed so daunting, I always had confidence in Brianna. Out of all people, she made life seem so dang easy. It was about the same time her family, after 20 years of running the CF walk, handed it over to us. It was one of Brianna's dreams to take it over. She always talked about it. She was a natural at it and was amazing in front of the spotlight. I did everything I could to help her flourish, excel in her dreams. If she wanted something done, I gave her all my attention and the best I could to go over the top for her. I gave her all my energy, much like how she gave everyone else hers. The walk grew since then over the years, all because of her inspiration and her drive to make CF stand for Cure Found. Today was the 25th anniversary of the Paulsville CF walk, and there is no better joy but to make it a big one. Now, not sure if this is what she had in mind as far as a big one, but it definitely has made quite the statement. Luckily, what at first seemed possibly to be a large difficulty, my career turned out to provide us in Brianna's dreams, to allow us constant 24-hour attention while I was home, and allowed us to enjoy time together without any distractions. It also provided for us in a way to finance all these dreams. From buying our first house, a paradise Brianna chose, before we even set foot on the property, to just living a life full of joy, her plethora of animals, and enjoying time with the family, and of course, her Seahawks. As the years progressed and her lungs became more compromised, we continued to conquer her dreams. One of our dreams we talked about often was kids. But with her health condition made things high risk for her, we talked about possibly a surrogate, or even testing fate and taking the risk of her having a baby, as we know of others who have had success in the same type of condition. We were talking about all these things all the way up into the very end, a dream of both of ours we never got to experience. These topics were hard to talk about, but we did often. But as many of you felt, we still had a lot more time. One of her biggest dreams was to be a motivational speaker. She always dreamed of going big. Never did she think she would go straight to the top. In March, Dr. Pottinger forwarded her name to the IDSA, Infectious Disease Society of America. They ran with it and flew her directly to Washington, D.C. to speak in front of Congress to help ask government for money to help in antibiotic-resistant research. I remember when she got the email how excited I was to tell everyone. In a sense, she was saving humanity. She always played it down like it was no big deal. She did that for everything. I never allowed her to let me play it down. I truly was excited for her and all of her accomplishments and made sure to show her. Before we left to DC trip, we could sense an infection possibly brewing again. Little did we know it was the end of her journey. We made it to DC. She spoke in front of the Senate staff, right next to the director of the CDC, and did the entire speech without oxygen. And once again, nailed it. Little did we know that when we would return would be her last trip of her life. You see, I am so blessed and happy our life was able to flourish, and Brianna and I got to experience so much in such a little amount of time. So much so, writing this speech was super difficult because there's just so much to include. And I feel there is so much I had to leave out because of time. I remember through her fight with CF to just living life, she always had the life motto, quality over quantity. And she did just that. I know many had questioned about a lung transplant. However, with her microbacterium disqualified her from a successful operation. But really, I don't think she wanted one. She, in her relationship with God, she believed she was given a certain amount of time, and her job was to take full advantage of every day God brings us. And tomorrow is never a guarantee. Not let things bring you down you have no control over, and enjoy the small things in life, because at times, it may be all you have. The amazing thing about the struggle that overwhelms me is although I was her husband, every person we have talked to or heard from has had the same type of light they have experienced from Brianna. The amazing, overwhelming outpour of support and the amount of messages we receive from people that start with, I don't know you, you don't know me, I didn't know Brianna, but she's truly been an inspiration. She filled everyone with so many amazing memories. It is hard to be able to even begin to talk about all of her amazing story. In addition to living with the motto, quality over quantity, she always reminded us that it's not about the memories you make, it's about the legacy you leave behind. In fact, one of her favorite quotes, which really testifies this, they say when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. Make it worth watching. Her life is quite worth watching. Now I have to continue. If Brianna's story isn't amazing enough, there are a few things she left with us, in addition to her inspiring legacy, that just strengthens her story as a life as an angel sent directly from heaven. Her faith with the Lord was strong. Her power to love every person she came in contact with was amazing. But as she passed and time slowed down, we all got a moment to sit back to talk about Brianna. Some pretty amazing revelations came to light. First, let's talk about our amazing dog, Bentley. On April 30th of this year, Bentley passed away just 1 week prior to Brianna passing from a brain tumor. I remember when Brianna confided in me that it was time to put Bentley down, as she always knew her animals very well. I remember telling her my worry of her and her broken heart, and that it was not time for her to go. I remember Brianna's parents was there, as they too were very close with Bentley, and understood the power that Brianna and Bentley had together. As we put Bentley down, I, as well as Brianna's parents, wept, but Brianna barely shed a tear. I remember that night I asked her how she was doing. Calm, distant, she replied with a bit of confusion of why she didn't share her goodbyes or shed any tears. But really, I think she knew why. They were headed down to the same place. Bentley was just preparing her red carpet. Let's take a step back a bit and let's connect our story. First, Brianna always liked to talk to me about just wanting to make it to her 30th birthday. I guess, like Jim said, you could say, if you count the 9 months in her mom's belly, she was pretty close. Or, if you count the amount of memories she has packed in her 29 years she has blessed us with, you could say she overfilled what some could do in 60 years. While planning this celebration, going through Brianna's belongings, her pictures, journals, we found just a fraction of the power Brianna carried. One of the pieces we found was a small notepad. On every single page, an amazing testament to her love for me and appreciation for me. One of those pages was her making note to her love of our 10-year plan. I remember reading this, tearing up from going through the 30-some-odd pages of this. After passing this page, it dawned on me. Brianna and I's relationship was 10 years. Let's look further. After continuing through all the amazing writings from Brianna and more of her notes, we ran across this devotion her mom found, written in 2002, 5 years before we knew each other. She writes, among many other things, I plan to be married by 23 and want to have my first child by age 25. I know that sometimes things don't go as planned, but I'm going to not let my disease stop me. What freaks us out is we were married July 7th, 2011. Brianna was 23 years old when we married each other. How did she know? Now, one of Brianna's favorite things was her favorite numbers, 7 and 11. I would ask her what the value of these numbers were, but she never could really pinpoint them. She never really understood a reason. Besides, she just liked them. Now, I did propose to her on 1/7/2011, and we married on 7/7/2011 as planned because of her love for these numbers. But what makes these numbers powerful is Brianna was born May 11th, 1988. She was born 7 pounds, 11 ounces. What brings this full circle is she passed just 4 days prior to her 29th birthday, May 7th, 2017. Born on the 11th, passes on the 7th. Her 2 favorite numbers. If that's not enough, let's go back to her devotional. She writes, want my first child at age 25. Not many people are aware, but exactly 1 year on the day of my mother's passing, Brianna brightens our lives with the amazing news. Brianna, at 25 years old, was pregnant. I remember the joy we both shared. I lit up like a little boy, and she sparkled. She was amazed God finally blessed us with a child, even against the difficulty CF creates in the entire process. Unfortunately, just a short time later, our baby was miscarried, most likely due to the ever so complicated superwar within of her CF and microbacteria. Beyond her amazing relationship with people, her relationship with God, and strength beyond any human, Brianna was in complete control of her entire life. From the very beginning all the way until her last breath, almost as Brianna and Bentley were a direct product sent directly from God to instill positive into this world and be an example of God's direct contact, as if she was an angel from heaven, already knowing her destiny from birth. You see, Brianna had a full-on war going on within her body, but never once did anyone ever see her complain about the pain inside, or did she let the pain or struggle identify who she was. Even fooling me at times, all the way up to the very end. She conquered the world with her superhuman strength with ease and great success. As the lyrics by the song Taxi by the Counting Crows, you don't know what you got till it's gone. We all knew Brianna was amazing. Never would we imagine she had the power of God, strength beyond measure, and a legacy that would live on forever. Before she passed, she challenged us all to find God, believe in Him, and meet her up in heaven. The legacy and the many memories she has left behind for me, and I hope for you, has made it somewhat impossible not to believe in Him, or at the very least, question His existence. Our 10 years were an amazing and unforgettable 10 years. Brianna joked leading up to her passing, she wished she could bring me with her and take a true tale of Romeo and Juliet. However, for some reason, God has plans for me. What they are, I don't know. But what I do know is I will someday meet her back in heaven. Brianna Oas Strand, Bentley, I am forever committed to the both of you and can't wait to rejoin you in heaven. Brianna, I know every breath I take for you, thinking of you. Forever and always. I love you so very much, Brianna Benster, and miss you more than words can say.
Hello and good evening. I am Brianna Oas, an 18-year-old Norwegian from the town of Paulsbo, also known as Little Norway. I have a passion for animals, especially horses, the FFA, and I love country music. I am blessed with a wonderful, supportive family whom I love very much.
Hope when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you built a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I did it all. I did it all. I owned every second that this world could give. I saw so many places, the things that I did. Yeah, with every broken bone, I swear I lived. Hope that you spend your days, but they all add up. And when that sun goes down, hope you raise your cup. Oh, I wish that I could witness all your joy and all your pain. But until my moment comes, I'll say, I did it all. I did it all. I owned every second that this world could give. I saw so many places, the things that I did. Yeah, with every broken where I lived.
But it seemed I was never on time. Still I wanna get through to you, girl. On time, on time. I want to give you some love. Good loving. I want to give you some good loving. Oh, see, I want to give you some good loving. Good loving. Turn your lights down low. Never try to resist, oh no. Oh, let my love come tumbling into our life again, saying, ooh, I love you, and I want you to know right now, ooh, I love you. And I want you to know right now, 'cause I want to give you some love. Oh.
Hold on, say it, start again.
This is a tribute to Riley Joe. I can't do it as good as she does, but I will try my best because we love her.
Looking back at his wireless unit. Looking good. Alright, switch it on. Oh! I'm feeling the love, I'm feeling the love.
And then she does this crazy thing where she's like, and I can't do it very good, so there you go, Riley. We love you and we miss you.
Besides spiders, I'm also deathly afraid of the dark, not a huge fan of heights, and horror movies are just not my cup of tea. I may be bearing my soul here, but I'm sure that at least a few of you know what I'm talking about or can sympathize with fears of your own. As I've gotten older, though, there's one fear I have that doesn't give me the willies, but it definitely makes me think. That fear is time. No, I'm not afraid of a clock. What scares me is not having enough time to live my life. Days go by, and time keeps ticking. That's a fact we all have to accept. But there are so many things I want to do, goals I want to achieve, so many places I want to see, differences I want to make, and so many people that I want to make an impact on. What happens if I run out of time? Time holds many meanings in multiple situations to all of us. But no matter what, it is always steady and unfailing, as the clock ticks away the seconds, minute by minute. It is said in the first 8 seconds of meeting someone, your impression has been made. Throughout history, 1 second has had irreversible effects. A decision made while driving in a NASCAR race, your ride on a Bull or Bronco in a rodeo, or navigating your vehicle on the freeways in Seattle. Just 1 second can determine a lifetime of possibilities and how they'll be spent. With 60 seconds in a minute, 3,600 seconds in an hour, 86,000 seconds in a day, 604,000 seconds in a week, and 31 million seconds in a year, you'd think that I would have plenty of time to do both the things that I want and the things I need to do. But then I turn on the news and hear about all the car wrecks, shootings, illnesses, freak accidents, and any other mishaps, and it makes me think twice. Someone else's time has run out, and I wonder, would they be satisfied with everything they've done in their life? Would they change a second of it if they could? Ever heard the saying, live like you were dying, or live like there's no tomorrow? Although true, these words are a little too cliche. For me, living life to the fullest is best defined in a story by Linda Ellis called The Dash. She wrote, I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the days on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the dates of her birth and spoke of the following dates with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now, only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. It's so easy for us to say, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll do it when I'm older. You know what happens to people's enjoyment of life when they make excuses? A butt gets in the way. And I'm not talking about the one that's sore from sitting right now. The kind of butt I'm referring to is the, I'd like to try that, but, or I've always wanted to do that, but. The next time you catch yourself using one of these phrases, remember Keith Urban put it best in Days Go By. We think about tomorrow, then it slips away. We talk about forever, but we've only got today. What did you do today? How did you spend your time? Maybe you competed in a contest. Maybe you supported members of your chapter. Maybe you practice for a contest tomorrow, or maybe you made plans to meet some new friends after this session. Whatever you did or will do tonight, are you making the most of state convention? To make the most of every second, to add worth to that little line that's your dash, take advantage of every situation you're in. Don't fear time. But how do you really do that? How do you live a full life, day by day, second by second? Ask yourself, what's my motivation? What gets you up in the morning? What activities do you do on your day off? For me, my motivation is living with CF. CF, or cystic fibrosis, is a genetic lung disease that has no cure. I was diagnosed with it at age 3, and since that time, the reality of not living as long as others has always shaped my outlook on life. It's my motivator every day to get up and get things done, routine or not. You know, for a long time I contemplated whether or not I should share about my CF. I've never liked pity from anyone, and I never wanted to be treated differently. I still don't. I decided to share this part of my life with you because it is who I am and who I will always be. And to truly enjoy your life, you have to start with knowing who you are. Now I know we've all heard the old adage, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But for many of us, we hear it but don't actually apply it. Now is your chance. Will you let a butt get in the way? Take every opportunity, every second you can to do what you want to do. Whether it's calling up that friend you haven't talked to in a while, taking that kickboxing class you've been thinking about, competing in that CDE, running for state office, or something as extreme as skydiving. The main point, how will people remember your dash? My dash My motivation, CF. Sure, sometimes I have a hard time breathing. I've spent a lot of time in the hospital, and I take a lot of medications. So what? Why let something that I can't change affect the potential of my little line? Everyone has some sort of limitation, but it's how you view that limitation that will determine your worth and your dash. Days go by. CF is not going to be my butt. It's all you've been given. You better start living right now. Fear, I will not fear time. I am blessed with a wonderful, supportive family whom I love very much.
The desire today has been to do what I mentioned at the very beginning, and that is to bring hope and grief together. And I think that we've done that. And I think most effectively through Bree's own words today. Bree passed away on a Sunday, and it was early Friday morning that Jim, you called and asked if I would come over and have prayer with the family. And of course, I was very pleased to do that. It was early in the morning, and I arrived and went to Bree's room, and of course the family was there. Bree was in bed, and Nick, you were there, and then there was this huge dog. It was Sophie, is that right? Big Sophia, great big Great Dane with Bree. And I remember some of her first words when I arrived, and they were just this: I just want to go see Jesus. I just want to go see Jesus. Before we prayed, I had the opportunity just to hug her and hold her for a moment, and she says, "You feel so good." And the reason she was saying that was because she was so warm. Her body was just burning up, and I had just come in from the cold. And so that felt good to her. Her family that was gathered around her was the most important thing. And we've heard it numbers of times how she spent the last moments of her life wanting to see everybody because she had that hope, and that's what we celebrate today. And Bree would have wanted us to end in a great celebration, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. Are you ready? Yeah, you think so? I think so. All right, let's stand together, shall we?
To the start where you found me. I'm coming back to your heart. I surrender, take me. This is all I can bring. Coming back to the start. I got our freedom, and here we feel your heart.
everyone who has helped make tonight possible. So happy everyone could come out and help us celebrate such an amazing life. We want everybody to join us afterward. Join us for Brianna's favorite foods, tacos, nachos, and street corn. There will be an open mic to allow people to share their amazing memories. Just ask everyone to keep things condensed, if possible, to allow time for everyone. The lobby will be open, so that way you can still look at all the amazing memories and such we have. Lastly, it has been a blessing to have so many people touch our lives, and those that have been touched and continue to be touched by Brianna, her amazing journey, and her love for life and God. We all knew she was and is something special, but never did we ever imagine she was this inspiring, leaving such a legacy. So in her honor, as requested by her, to finish this celebration of life outright, please, let's make it a party. Let's all stand up like we already are. Sing loud, dance hard, give it all you got, and let the world know how much we all loved and continued to love her.
I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, on God's great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, on God's great dance floor. God's great dance floor. I come alive, here we go. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, on God's great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, on
One more
God's
time.
great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, on God's great dance floor. I feel alive, I come alive, I am alive, God's great dance floor.
So we invite you all to reception. Let's let the family go first, and you'll follow them right out the doors and to the right. To the right, out the doors. Let's follow. Let's celebrate.
I wanna leave my footprints on the sands of time. Know there was something that meant something that I left behind. When I leave this world, I'll leave no regrets. Leave something to